What's up guys, JayzTwoCents here, and I'm going to be playing around with some mic configurations here and my new AT4053B condenser mic, which I'm going to be using with my camera, isn't here yet. So in the meantime, I'm going to be using my new Audio-Technica 2035. Ooh, Jerry only has a 2020 because he can't afford a 2035. Actually, I'm just kidding. That guy's got way more money than I do. Today's video is brought to you by squarespace.com/JayzTwoCents. And if you remember last year when I was doing my custom cycle jerseys, I needed a way to sell those, and I'm not a web developer. So I actually headed on over to squarespace.com and checked out some of their e-commerce stuff. And I was actually able to build an e-commerce site by just using some simple tools on their website, and I sold my custom cycling jerseys in no time. I literally set it up overnight. And if you guys want to build your own website right now, regardless of what type of website that is, head on over to squarespace.com/JayzTwoCents. Use offer code JAYZ, J-A-Y-Z, and save 10% on your order. And if you sign up for a year, you get a domain absolutely free. So it's graphics card season, and we're on the cusp of AMD launching their new cards, and we are now in the middle of all of the custom AIB partner cards launching for the GTX 1080. And with that, you guys know that means there's going to be a bunch of custom cards and custom flavors coming out, and we're going to be taking a look at pretty much all of them. Now, we've already taken a look at a few here on this channel, and today we're going to be looking specifically at Gigabyte's G1 Gaming. Now, the G1 Gaming line from Gigabyte has always been kind of a fan favorite amongst not only myself, but gamers, because the Wind Force cooler was really a big thing back in the day when it first came out. 3 fans on there, tons of heat pipes, keeping things as cool as possible. So that's absolutely no different here when it comes to the G1 Gaming. In fact, the G1 Gaming is really what kind of, it really sort of replaced the Wind Force line, if you will. They used to call them Wind Force, now they call them G1 Gaming. But what makes this card kind of interesting is the fact that it is a custom PCB. It is not a founder's PCB. But what's interesting about that is whereas everyone's kind of taken the custom board partner designs and they're going with multiple power connectors, this one really kind of kept it simple. It's the factory length of about 11 inches. It doesn't have a taller design, so it's going to fit in smaller form factor cases. And it has a single 8-pin PCIe power with the factory 180 watt TDP. So it's not really looking at drawing a whole lot of power. Now with that, a lot of people would say that means it's not a very good overclocker. But obviously we're going to test that in this video because overclocking is my thing. And I kind of already showed with the MSI Gaming X that the extra power pin and the tons of extra power phases really didn't seem to make much difference when it came to overclocking. So I'm interested to see how it does with this guy. Actually, I've already done it. I've spent a lot of time with this card already. But, movie magic here. We're pretending like we didn't do it for the sake of dramatic effect. I'm going to start off with the elephant in the room here regarding the cooler is yes, there is orange accenting on it. It seems like this time around, orange is the new red. Everybody seems to be doing orange. Now, I've seen some complaints on the internet saying, why is it orange? I don't want to look at orange. Well, unless you have a case that's holding the card up like this, when you're looking at it in your case, you're not going to see the orange. But instead, what you're going to see here is the glowing RGB Gigabyte logo, as well as the fan stop logo. Now what that fan stop means is when the card is running at idle, the factory fan curve on this turns the fans off, so it's 100% silent. That illuminates just to tell you, hey, your fans are off. But you can also go into the Guru app and you can actually turn that off if you don't want to see that, or change the RGB color of it. Of course, it has a backplate. You guys know if it doesn't have a backplate at the price that these things cost, all 1080s for that matter, I think they know that they would kind of get ripped if they didn't have a backplate. Well, it has one. And it offers a little bit of rigid support, which also means that it's not going to really sag when you put it in your case. Now, of course, card sag has to do with the weight of the card. Fortunately, Gigabyte has done a very good job at keeping this thing light. It's really not that heavy. In fact, it's a lot lighter than even the Founders card, because the Founders card has that giant, heavy aluminum shroud on there with the vapor chamber and all that stuff. But Gigabyte has found a way to keep this card cool with only 3 copper heat pipes, and then aluminum heatsink array, or fin array on here for that matter, with 3 very lightweight fans. And the shroud is unfortunately plastic, whereas in the past it had been metal. This shroud is indeed plastic, keeping things as light as possible. So obviously we're going to be doing some cooler tests on this too to see how well it actually performs in terms of cooling, but don't let that weight fool you. It's one of those things where sometimes You want to judge something about how good it is, by how heavy it is, but you can't really do that in this instance. Now on the back of the card, it's got your same connections as Founders. It's got your DVI-D, one HDMI 2.0, and 3 display ports. What I like that Gigabyte did was, for whatever reason, and I don't know why NVIDIA did this, is it goes 2 display ports with an HDMI in the middle and then another display port. So they kind of switched that, where the 3 display ports are next to each other and then the HDMI is on the bottom. I don't know why NVIDIA did that. It never made sense to me. I never liked it, especially as someone who uses 3 display ports on their array here. Having them separated like that looked really stupid. Even though you're not looking at the back of it, it's just one of those things that makes you wonder, why did they do it? So Gigabyte has actually corrected that. Now, one of the things that's really different this time around regarding the 1080s is I'm noticing a lack of physical BIOS switches for changing the OC presets and such when it comes to the graphics cards. And a lot of companies seem to be going along with this whole concept of software controlled, which I think kind of stinks in a way because that forces you into using their software if you want to use the out-of-the-box profiles. Now, this card does feature 2 profiles. It has got the gaming mode, which has a base clock of 1695 megahertz and a boost clock of 1835. So it's roughly 100 megahertz faster than Founders out of the box, at least with the gaming mode. If you switch it to OC mode, it's 1721 base and 1860 megahertz boost clock. Now, in terms of the testing methodology with the 1080, I just want to point out, as you guys look at the graphics charts here coming up, is I am doing all of my testing with the fastest boost clock settings that the graphics cards ship with. So in this case, I'm using the OC mode. Same thing with all the other cards you're going to see in the chart. I'm letting them boost up as far as they'll go, which in all of these cases is beyond the actual boost clock because of how GPU Boost 3.0 works. So I'm not letting the overclocking ability past those boost clocks influence the numbers whatsoever. So it really is going to be indicative of what you would get out of the box. If all the parameters allow it to boost up as far as mine, that's up to you. But I can't really slow down the cards. The GPU boost just wants to go where it wants to go. So I wanted to point that out. So with that said, in the hours and hours spent benchmarking this thing, let's go ahead and look at those charts and then let's come back with some final thoughts. It's kind of the cookie cutter way we do these reviews around here. Now this card went right past the 1860 megahertz boost and went right up to 1936, which is pretty amazing considering now out of the box, just under 2000 megahertz is kind of a thing now. But anyway, I was able to actually overclock this thing to 2101 megahertz, 2101. And that's kind of been the magical number that a lot of people were having a hard time hitting. But in terms of the numbers, I don't think anyone's surprised here, considering all 1080s are going to pretty much perform very, very similar. They're going to overclock very similar unless you get a really poor silicon lottery winner. So I don't think anyone expected there to be more than a 1 or 2 FPS difference between other 1080s that are clocked the same. But what really comes down to with 1080s is, again, the cooler. It comes down to noise. It comes down to coil whine, size, weight. Yeah, length obviously matters in some cases. But coil whine on the G1 Gaming was mostly absent. I say mostly, remember I do my testing in an open air test bench, and I do sit only 2.5 feet away from it. So in scenes where FPS goes really high, especially in 1080p gaming, there is some coil whine. But if you put on something like VSync or G-Sync, then you are going to have that coil whine really reduced because the FPS is not running out of control, causing the inductors to just go absolutely insane and vibrate with excitement like I tend to do when I get to do graphics card reviews. But once again, here we go with 2101 megahertz. I know I can go farther if I can get full control over the voltage and get it to stop bouncing around all over the place. Single 8-pin PCI Express power, 180 watts TDP, and we are doing it with 8 plus 2 I can't even say it, 8 plus 2 phase power, so 10 phase power for clean delivery and not drawing a lot of power, giving you really low temperatures. This thing only sat at 72 C when it bumped up to almost 2000 megahertz by itself. And then setting the fans to 50%, again, barely even audible whatsoever. Temperature stayed at 61 C while overclocked. Yeah, I think Gigabyte has done it again. The G1 gaming card is definitely a fan favorite amongst the audience. Definitely a card worth looking at if you guys are shopping for GTX 1080s. So with that said, I'm going to get out of here. Thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you think about the G1 Gaming GTX 1080 from Gigabyte. Always been a fan of their cards. Performs very, very well. And it's not like a massively humongous card. It's no bigger than Founders, so it doesn't take a giant PCB to pull off the numbers like you guys were seeing. So tell me what you think. I don't know if it's available yet at the time of this video publicly, but hopefully soon. And like I said, hopefully pricing's not too out of control. But with that said, tell me what you guys think about this card, and I'll see you guys in the next video. As always, thanks for watching.